Very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's uLaw webinar. Today's webinar is not accredited for any CPD credits, but it's most certainly going to be walking you through the mobile app version of the uLaw platform. So we're going to talk about the important features and functionalities and how it works as a sidekick for the legal practitioners that use the uLaw platform today to be able to provide access to information right at their fingertips, not even having to open their laptops or other mobile devices, how right within the palms of their hands on a mobile phone, they're able to access information about their legal business, take actions such as docket, add client information, access calendar information, if you will, and most importantly, access the analytics behind the data that's sitting within their firm's information. So we're going to pretty much highlight within the next 45 minutes the important features and functionalities of the uLaw mobile platform. The application itself, the mobile app, is available both on the iOS, the Play Store, Apple Play Store, as well as the Android Play Store, if you will. It's available in both these different versions. Of course, for those who have been using uLawPractice, you can certainly appreciate the web presence of the platform, where we're cloud-enabled, we're 256-bit encrypted, and we're available across multiple browsers, including Safari and Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer. What you can see right now is a web version of the more full-fledged web app itself. This is where you're actually invoicing. There's some of the heavy lifting, if you will, is done within the web version of it. The reason for us to build the mobile app is, again, giving the opportunity for the fast-paced legal practitioner to not even have to open up their laptops into this web version for very certain important aspects and functionalities that they carry out. So let's say you're at a courthouse and you have a client that is interested in retaining your service. You don't want to be able to open up your laptop or write down on a pen. You can pretty much take your phone, open the uLaw app, intake the client with as much as basic information as you possibly can right within the app. That flows back into the full-fledged web version automatically. So either yourself later that day or maybe your assistant in the firm can further grow from building that client information, doing all the necessary documentation that's required behind the scenes as well. So even before you leave the courthouse, potentially you could have a retainer document emailed to that client. So we're going to walk through a simple workflow of how the mobile app works hand in hand with the full-fledged web application that's available to you today. We're continuing to invest in the mobile app, and we're continuing to add new and exciting features. But like every other uLaw webinar, today's webinar specifically has an agenda focused on the top 5 features that we have endeavored into in the mobile app world. Starting with the contact management. As I mentioned earlier, this is where you're able to not only add clients or contact information, you're also able to import contact information from your phone book. So let's say you have an Android or iOS phone, you can import those contacts right into the uLaw app. Matter management. We talk about how important it is to be able to docket as you go. So the uLaw app pretty much provides you the platform to be able to docket right out of your mobile app. Interestingly enough, if you have saved the phone information of the client, and let's say you actually call the person right from your phone using the uLaw app, at the end of the call, uLaw also prompts you to see if you would be interested in docketing that phone conversation as a billable docket right from the app. That docket, of course, automatically goes back into the web version, makes it ready and available for someone in your firm or yourself later that day to invoice the client for all the dockets that you've had. what we've really done is going with our core essence of capturing the moment as and when it happens. We've extended that capability beyond the web version to also be able to access information as well as do simple functionalities right out of the phone's app. Okay? So I'm going to take I know there's a quick chat, so I'll make sure I answer the question. Oh yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. And in addition to matter management, one other simplistic feature that was requested by our clients and we found to be a very important component that was missing on the mobile app is to be able to provide basic accounting information, right? Whether that's in the form of analytics, or whether that's in the form of simple bank balances. So for you to be able to appreciate where your numbers are at a glance, at a real click of a button. That's the approach we've taken with our mobile app, providing you with all the important information around your finances within our accounting feature in our mobile app. Coming to time management, as you know, the web version of uLaw app is very much integrated through the International Calendar Standard with any of your calendars that you may be using, whether that's a Google Calendar, whether that's Outlook, whether you're using Office 365, whatever dockets that you actually put into the uLaw system can very much be synchronized, if you will, into all of these platforms. What we've done is we've just taken that to the next step, where now if you have a docket or any time-based information within your uLaw calendar, you can synchronize that with the uLaw app, and further allows you to then synchronize with your mobile phone, being able to actually put that calendar event right on your mobile device, whether that's an iOS calendar, whether it's an Android calendar, making time, I would say, more of reminders that much more simpler, because now that's integrated right within your mobile app. And last but not the least, we've got the analytics. Important pieces of information about how well your business is doing, the hygiene of your business, ensuring that you have information about where are you making your money from, how best to manage your expenses, even pieces of information such as pro bono. All of the analytics that you can actually drive out of the full-fledged web application that I'm showing you right now in our analytics right here. So what you see in our full-fledged web version right here is the capability to pretty much generate any of the pieces of information that you need. So for example, if you wanted to know the fee book by category for this quarter, you can imagine the amount of data that's being pulled. I'm, of course, using a practice account, but to give you this information. Now, this information, knowing that almost 96% came from expenses, which are recoverable in nature, giving you that information is very much now available on our mobile app as well. Okay, so we'll get into those components as we proceed through the demonstration. A quick question around whether we integrate with MS SharePoint. That's a great question. It really comes down to, and maybe I can take this offline. The answer is really comes down to which component is required to be integrated with SharePoint, whether it's a document that's generated out of uLaw being available for you to upload into SharePoint, or whether it's a specific piece of information that needs to be captured. We're more than happy to discuss the specificity of that need and provide you with options of how best that can be accomplished. Most of our integrations are, of course, API-based. Most of our integrations are not proprietary to the platform, so it's very open source API-based. So the other party that you're looking to integrate with does support that. We're more than happy to investigate if we already don't have that feature to help through that process. And in terms of slide share, that's pretty much all I wanted to set the context for today, because this is going to be yet another fun-filled session where I can show you the platform in its works. But for those who have joined us today and don't know who we are a Canadian company, been in business for over 12 years, serving Canadian legal professionals through a cloud-enabled or cloud-powered legal accounting, practice management, and a business accounting software, serving the Canadian legal professionals and providing compliance, keeping compliance at our heart, and providing a compliant, cost-effective, and a very Canadian practice management and legal accounting solution. And we do offer a 30-day trial at a day and age where 30 days have become 14 and 14 have become 7. We continue to use the 30-day trial as a benchmark, as we believe that's an enough time. And in fact, it is the time required by any legal firm at a minimum to be able to make a decision about a product, because it's not an impulse buy, it's something that you really need to think about before purchasing. So we welcome you to download or actually visit us on our website and enter the information, and we'll be more than happy to walk you through the product and if it can fit your firm's needs. Okay? So keeping the specific agenda in mind, let me try and go back and forth between my web application and the mobile app that I have on my phone, and I'm using a Samsung phone S7, not the S20s, not the latest and greatest, but still does its charm. I'm going to quickly try and get out of here. And please do keep those questions coming. I'm going to try and share my screen. So as I continue to transfer, so here you could see the uLaw app. Let me sign out. I've downloaded it from the Play Store, in my Android Play Store. And you would use the same username and password that you pretty much use for uLaw when you log into the MAPE web application. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to sign in. And the first landing page that you see here really gives you the ability to look at all of your client information in a quick snapshot, alphabetically arranged. But of course, this doesn't help, because especially if you have multiple contacts, this is really not going to help you. So what we've done next is the ability for you to now search. So if you know the information of the person, so let's say it's Henry, there you go. Automatically, it starts to list all the Henrys in the database. Let me bring up, if there's a specific piece of information that's not available, it does not list it. So it's almost similar to a Google search, where as you type, you're able to see the information be populated. Okay, so let me look at a more recent contact that I was working on. So earlier today, I was working on this client, Kindle Shaw. And once you search up that information, of course, you're able to see some basic information about Mr. Kindle Shaw. And you have a couple of buttons right here. You have a briefcase, and you have a question mark. And if I scroll up, I see all the information that I've entered as I entered information through the client intake form using my web version. Okay? You can see the referral type. So at a glance, you can really know, how did Kindle Shaw get to know your firm? It was through a referral type, and the note you can clearly see was referred by Uncle Bob. Okay, and you also know what their nickname is, and just for fun's sake, we've put in a birth date for last year that gives you the age, which is an important data component in many court forms, and that's why we capture that. So whatever information you've entered about this very specific client is available right away. So I'm going to move on to clicking the question mark. The question mark, as the buttons sounds really, is the ability for you to quickly understand, question what has happened within this matter or this client to this date. And you can use the left or right swipe using your finger right on your phone to be able to swipe to the left for the next piece of information. So it tells you that the invoice status is completed, and you can clearly see right at the bottom what that information means. So total invoice amount for Mr. Kendall Shaw is $665. Total paid, you could clearly state that it's been fully paid, and hence the total invoice balance is $0. The total trust funds received, so this gives you a slightly different picture. So there was a retainer involved, right? It was not just Kendall, the work being done for Mr. Kendall Shaw, and then the client payment being received. There was actually a retainer involved for $665, and the trust balance is $0. That clearly states that all of the money of the eligible trust transfer has been moved from the trust account into the general account. If you have multiple matters for the same client, you can clearly understand if there are more than one. Clearly states right now there's just one. The highest invoice total, all the piece of information, 5 or 6 important pieces of information right at the click of a button right at the fingertips. And that was clicking the question mark. Now there's also another button right in the center, the briefcase. When I click that, now that opens up the actual file or the matter itself. Okay, this gives you all the work that's been put into this matter so far. So you can clearly see right at the top all the clients, the specific matter that's being worked for Mr. Kendall Shaw. And there's just a single event. So as you can see, this was done earlier today, July 3rd. It was just a single docket, final closure for $500. In the description, you can clearly see it was an initial meeting, a second meeting, a court visit, and the final documents completed. That was part of the description that was entered when this event was docketed. Okay. You can go back to that question right from here as well, but I'm going to skip that. Right at the bottom, you see a question mark. It's the same question mark that we had right at the contact level. But there's another button right at the top, which looks like a clock. So if I were to click on that clock, you can see right away it gives you the opportunity either to add a particular docket or import a docket. Okay, so let's go ahead and click the Add Docket, and you could say telephone call. You could do a billable time of 10 minutes, rounds it up to the next 6-minute interval. I'm going to take some basic information about detailed call about the matter. Let's say that was discussed for about 12 minutes, and that's what you've docketed. Okay? So this was a simplistic way of getting into a client, quickly jumping into their matter, and being able to add a docket for 12 minutes. Now, how does this get reflected in the actual uLaw platform? So if I were to take my Percenter role back into my web application, which I'll do in a quick minute right now. And share my screen. Always helps to do that. So you can see the same piece of information, Kendall Shaw, very much the same information that you had there. I'm going to click on the Matter button that you see right here that gives you all the information about the files that were created for Kendall Shaw. Then I'm going to go ahead and click on the matter button. So, quick fingers. I'm going to close that. Now, if you notice, going into the matter events, you see right away the docket being entered, telephone call, detailed call about the matter. Okay, you can see this in gray because it's already been invoiced, so you cannot edit this further. Of course, this, you can go ahead and add more information. So the app almost gives you the ability to quickly capture the moment as and when it happens without having to get into the web application. But you can then go into the web application for you to do some of the heavy lifting, of course, such as the invoicing. So today we don't have the invoicing to be done right from the mobile app simply because of the form factor and the amount of, I would say, the amount of engine speed that's required. So many devices, especially in today's day and age, users have various different formats and different configurations of phones. So we want to take baby steps towards we get to that point where at a minimum everyone has the basic configuration required to be able to run a complex invoice right from the phone, right? So right now what we've done is through the app given the ability to capture the moment, that particular docket right from your phone, being able to always come back, whether it's your iPad or your MacBook, your Windows laptop, to then be able to continue down that workflow from where you left off. Okay, so you can continue to add to that docket. Then you can either move forward with invoicing this particular client, which of course you would do right from here, completing the purpose of that docket to begin with, to make it part of a billable event that can then be docketed and further invoiced right away. So at about $400 an hour for about 12 minutes, you've gone ahead and raised that invoice. Now let's look at the status. Let's say you've done this, or maybe your assistant has done this behind the scene, or you have done this later that day. The status of this entire file has changed, right? Before it was a different component, now it's a different component. So let me once again give my control to my mobile app. And you have to bear with me for a quick sec because I'll have to do this back and forth. And there you go. I'm going to have to quickly just refresh. All right. Now you see that the client status is continuing to be complete, right, just like before. But previously we had client owing as 0, but now of course you have the 9040 simply because of that 12-minute phone conversation. You then have the running balance of the 665 that was previously paid off, and now knowing clearly that that's the amount owed. Okay? So you can see the mobile app evolves with the workflow that you go about doing within that application. So once again, if you've accepted the client payment, then you can go ahead and send an invoice with the specific payment link right embedded within that document, because we integrate today with Monaris, Pivotal Payments, Global Payments, as well as TD, that allows you to capture payment linked right into your invoice. So if your client receives that PDF document via email, he or she would then be able to click on it, or the company, whoever the client may be, clicking on the link and paying for that 90/40 automatically. Okay? So being able to search up client information, understand the latest and greatest status about the matters involved with that particular client, being able to add a docket, being able to even phone that particular client and import that as a docket, all of that works just fine. So I'm going to click on this number, and you can see I'm basically calling the support line. So let's say this is a client conversation that just ended. And voila, right there. Once you get back to the uLaw app, it clearly states you just made a phone call to this particular number regarding a matter for the specific client that we're talking about, and it asks you, would you like to add that as a docket or not? So you can choose no, or if you say yes, add the docket, it automatically populates the basic information such as telephone conversation, rounds it off to the nearest 6 minutes interval, puts in whatever basic information we know, which of course you can always add, or you can simply add to the mix like we did it before. Go back to the web application and continue to build from there. Okay? Now if you see the invoice status, it has changed depending, because you technically have that 6-minute phone conversation that we just entered as a status that has not yet been invoiced. So you can see how the mobile app evolves as the workflow changes. As the different steps change, so does the steps within the mobile app, because it synchronizes automatically with the web application, giving you the latest and greatest at all times. Okay, so if you really look at the 5 different, the top 4 different features, you've got contacts, we just looked at matter, we have the ability to import a docket through a phone conversation, add a docket, whatever that may be. Moving along to our accounts. I mentioned to you, of course, there's 2 components of the data that we're able to provide you right on your phone. One, to begin with, all of the balances of all the bank accounts that you have pretty much created within the uLaw platform. Right? So you have placeholder accounts. So let's assume that you've got a trust account as well as a general account, and maybe also a business credit card with a financial institutions. And let's say it's TD, could be CIBC, RBC, any credit union banks as well. You, of course, would have created in the uLaw platform the placeholder accounts that reflect all of these real-life bank accounts. And that's listed, of course, right under Assets, Liabilities, Capital, Revenue, Expenses as the top chart of accounts categories. Okay? And under that, you have your trust balances for your pooled trust account. So if I click on the particular trust account, it clearly states as of today what the opening balance is and what the debits are. You can use the calendar right at the top and change this particular date. Clearly states there are no entry for today. And there you go. At any given time, you'll be able to access the information specific to that particular account. A more widely used trust account, the TD bank account in uLaw, clearly states the transactions that have occurred, and we color-coded in red and green for simplicity and for ease of visualization. So red meaning money being taken out of the trust account, green meaning where the money has come in to the trust account. So you can clearly see that today there was $665, right, the first transaction in red, the trust transfer, and you click on it, it tells you what really happened. There was an invoice, and there was a trust transfer that was done, moving that $665 from the trust account into the general account, leaving your trust account at a balance of $1,985,000. Just prior to that, in green, you have a retainer for the same matter, Kindle Shaw, where you received a retainer. It even tells you the check number 776. Okay? So you can see the balance at that particular time was different. When we got the 665, it was 958. After that 665 was taken, it became 293. Likewise, you have red and green for all the transactions looking at the trust deposit. So let's say there was a real estate transaction. $1,017,000 just entered the trust account. Okay? Retainers, trust transfers. There was even a disbursement that was paid out from the trust account. Something that we talk about all the time here at uLaw and all in our webinars is the ability for you as a legal practitioner to really use the facility provided to be able to pay out disbursements right out of your trust account, especially if you have one, exercise the use of it, right? So to begin with, we give you the information you need for this particular date range from June 3rd to July 3rd. You can, of course, use the calendar right at the top to choose the date range for a specific account. You can do the same thing for your general account. Let me choose a general account that makes sense. There you go. So when that 665 was taken out of the trust account and was moved into the general account, now you can see the reverse right here. That 665 was shown in green, and it was for the same client, Kindle Shaw, through the same invoice, keeping that information consistent. A $100 disbursement was paid out of general account. So as soon as you see the second line item, which says application fee for a matter, and the KS692967 is really the matter number, it gives you the general balance. Okay? So this is, to begin with, a quick sidekick to give you the latest and greatest of balances and how those balances were formed, with all the transactions being color-coded between green and red and giving you all the information that you need. I move along to the next type of data components that we give you access to right within the mobile app. Interestingly enough, it's yet another question mark right on the top right. And when I click on it, this is the same analytical engine that's powering the uLaw analytics on your web application. Okay. Right at the top, you see the capital investment charts by investors. When I click on it, it gives me the ability and the opportunity to choose the same set of questions and analytical questions that we would like for you to ask yourself regarding the data that's in your system for your particular law firm. So if I were to go back to that same analytics that I just showed you on our web application, fee book chart by category, and choosing, let's say, the year. Of course, this could take a little bit of time given the data that's residing, but there you go. In less than 5 seconds for the entire year, you've got the information you need, where this year, 9.4% came out of real estate, 14%, and I'm just using my thumb right here to swivel through this, right? Right at the bottom, we give you the top 5. So you've got expenses that are recoverable expenses at about 43%. Then comes the 22% of miscellaneous. Then the 9% of real estate. And we've got about 10% of immigration, 14% of small claims. But if you wanted to know the top 8 categories, right at the bottom you see the number of PICE. You can just click on 8 and it will tell you right away the total spread of your revenue. So you've got 4.3% of family law. You can do this as a bar chart if that's easier. You've got expenses, small claims, immigration and visa. And if you needed a tabular version of it, you can derive that as well. And if you can imagine this all to be a form factor that is comfortable right on your palm, right on your phone. Okay. We're not looking for you to do the heavy lifting right out of the phone yet. Again, we're definitely looking into helping you in the future build and generate invoices, being able to do other things that you're able to do the web version. But for starters, being able to give you the data in your fingertips is something that we've accomplished. And there's various different types of analytics. Right, so if you wanted to know about the expenses, you may want to know about the pro bono chart by client. So right when you're sitting on a weekend on your porch, or if you're sitting in your house, and if you really want to know, who are all the clients that have benefited from the pro bono provided, you can quickly look at that right away. So you could see about 23% for Mr. Kenderly Shaw, a different Shaw. You've got Henry at about 15%. And if you look at the table, you would even know the amount. So you can see you've got about an hour and a half for Mr. Kenderly Shaw. You've provided pro bono of about an hour for Mr. Henry Michelin as well. Okay, so this is the second level of data that we're able to provide you right at your fingertips. The first one, of course, was the important component of the balances, giving you a visual representation of the money coming in and money leaving those accounts as you've captured it in uLaw, right? At the end of the day, what's important is data in is data out. So we're able to show you the data that's been reflected in the system thanks to your data entry efforts to begin with. And the data that we're able to reflect in these forms are as prudent as the data that you have entered into the system, right? And the last component, of course, is that of the calendar. So you could see right here when we're loading up the calendar, there was a final closure docket for Mr. Kenderly Shaw that was very much available, right? And if, let's say, I wanted to be able to synchronize that, I can synchronize this particular phone's calendar on a daily basis, okay? I can simply refresh this calendar to be able to synchronize this right to my phone. So when I do that synchronization to my phone, what I'm able to show you is when I open my phone's calendar, I believe this was earlier today. Just have to search where it is. There you go. Here's the telephone call that we just did for Kendall versus Nathan defense issue that we were just working on. That particular calendar event got synchronized right into my phone's device. Okay? As simple as that. Interestingly enough, you can also add a docket. Sometimes you know the matter for which you're entering it, sometimes you don't. So if you're going it from the calendar, what you can possibly do is you can choose the specific matter. So let's say this is for Amy Jackson. It brings up the one matter that would, or it could be Anderson Cooper. You've got family matter or first degree murder charge. So this could have been a phone or could be a coffee meeting. Okay? So let's say it's a 2-hour billable time. And you click on the tick symbol, it's pretty much done. Okay. So from a uLaw perspective, right from your contacts, moving along to the matter information, which gives you the events, the rates, the parties involved, moving along into the accounts, where we give you the balances as well as the analytical data behind the scene, and to the calendar. These are the top features and functionalities that we've taken away as a sidekick, really. Those 5 features that we looked in our agenda. And let me take you back. Bear with me. I apologize that I'm going kind of back and forth, but all in good reason. Really going back to the agenda of today, we looked at the contact management, the ability to add a client. So maybe I'll stop with that as my final feature that I'll show you, where we can import or either import or add a new client right out of the mobile app, right? But we've looked at how you can add dockets, import phone calls as importing dockets, the accounting feature, calendar synchronization back to the phone, and the analytics that we were able to show you both at the contact level as well as the matter level, and of course the analytics at the accounting level as well. And if you look at our main web version, one of the first steps that you do within the uLaw product, of course, is you add a client. And of course things have changed after COVID a little bit, but let's say once we start to get out more often and we're going to be meeting prospective clients, you don't have the need anymore to be able to move around with the laptop or write it down on a piece of paper, come back and add that anymore into the uLaw system. As much as it's cloud enabled, you are able to do that right out of the phone's app. Keep in mind the app is, again, free of charge. As long as you have a subscription to the uLaw platform, you are able to use the same username and password that you would enter on the web version on the mobile version as well. So the same information that you captured right here in the client intake form, right? Title, first name, last name. This is exactly how you do a client intake. Right? So let's say right, so Martina Hingas, you've got a source of contact. Right, basic information, you would put in the phone number, etc. And you would click Save. This is how you enter a client information right out of the web version of uLaw. Very similar, let me show you how you can do that same client intake procedure right from your phone's app, the uLaw app. And maybe I'll quickly highlight what we've done here. Once I have saved that information of Martina, it's going to bring it up with the capital M. There you go. And the best way to recognize the most recently updated contact information is if you do have a dashboard element, which is called Recently Modified Contacts. Now, this dashboard element is a pretty cool feature, very subliminal in nature. It's not rocket science, or it's not a big deal, but it gives the ability for you to collaborate with others in the office who are responsible, let's say, for a certain process. So let's say you have a client intake officer in your law firm who goes through a set of procedures and processes to ensure that the information needed as per compliance of the Law Society and maybe the compliance as set by your own firm are met, such as, is there a client ID before, was there conflict search done? So maybe that individual in the company goes through all that process. that individual needs to be notified if a more recent client intake was done. And this dashboard element is exactly that, as the modified contacts keep updating with the most recently updated contact right at the top. So as soon as they see Martina Hingis, they realize, that's a new contact, let me get on it. So let me now quickly, with another 10 minutes left, jump back to showing you how you can do the client intake right out of the app. So now I'm at the contacts menu option, and right at the top you have, of course, the search. But next to it you have this people symbol, and that allows you to add a new contact or import a contact right from your phone book. So let's say I go ahead and say add new contact. This is the app version of the form factor that captures basic information that's needed in the client intake form. Basic information. So if you just met someone, you want the basic information, you can always follow up later for other pieces of information. So let's say first name was of course, big tennis fan in the house. You can put a phone number, email, whatever, right? Basic information, correspondence address. Maybe they didn't give it to you at that particular time, but you can quickly add that client and search up the Martinas. You have multiple Martina Navratilовas, which is interesting. That's why it's important to have nicknames and other pieces of information. You can even see when it was created. So this is the one that we created right now. What this does is it triggers, of course, as I'm going to go back to showing you the web version real quick. If I go back into my dashboard and refresh it, hopefully this works and I don't fall flat on my face. There you go. You got Martina Navratilova as the most recently added contact. Then the person responsible for that intake process. We have law firms where there are client intake officers, and the only dashboard element that they have for their login is the most recently modified contacts, right? So this is a classic example of where something like this would really help. Immediate next step is to be able to go in and do a conflict search. Right, so that's where adding the contact right out of the mobile app is the starting point to this entire workflow for a client intake to that legal firm. Before, the only way you could do that was write it on a piece of paper, write it and then get into the web version of the system later that day, update it. But now, instead of having to write it in that yellow sticky note, you can do it right from your mobile app, and we take care of the rest of including that information into the workflow that you're so used to automatically. Okay? And I can continue to, of course, talk about the benefits of the integration between the web and the mobile app, but in terms of feature set and functionality, that's pretty much all I had to show today, folks, in terms of the 5 important components that we're continuing to build on, continuing to invest. So we're starting to look at, simple features, as I said earlier, the ability for you to now add a disbursement, add office expenses. Those are the top 2 features that we're working on in the mobile platform. Following that would be the ability to generate simple invoices. Following that, of course, our plan in our roadmap is the ability to create simple retainer documents right out of the phone. And of course, we'll continue to evolve as technology and feature sets evolve that are required for you to be successful. Okay? Just to complete this workflow, so that is your conflict search document. And there you can see there's a few Martina Hingis's, Narta Lewis, etc. So to pretty much wrap this for the day, I do apologize that I've gone back and forth, but as I said, with good reason. The agenda for today's webinar was to really walk you through the mobile apps capability of the uLaw platform, the top 5 feature sets that you currently have, the current users of the platform. If you haven't already started benefiting from these features, we kindly request you to download the app and start to look at these features and ensure that they're working for you. And we'd love to get your feedback on feature sets that we can include that can make that process that much more efficient. So like that, maybe close out for today and ask any questions that you may have that I'll be more than happy to answer. Alrighty then, so if there are any more questions, definitely want to thank you for your time today. Hope you have a fantastic weekend ahead. As always, we'll look forward to speaking with you next Friday from 2 to 3 in our next webinar. And for those who are interested, all of that information is available on our website at uLawPractice.com/webinar. And you can pretty much see, so the next webinar is a 1-hour professionalism CPD credit, which pretty much talks about contact management. And we have a list for the entire month. Or in fact, we have it for the entire summer almost. Fair enough. So here's the website, uLawPractice.com/webinar. Thank you very much. Thanks for the feedback. Thanks for the encouragement. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.